Hi, happy Monday. Welcome to HR Huddle. My name is Jennifer Wilson, and I'm with Convergence Coaching, and I'm here today with my good friend, Samantha Mansfield, and we're here to talk about all things talent in our profession and in our lives, just all the things that we should be focusing on strategically related to talent and talent management and human resources, but also sometimes tactically too. Like, what are the to-dos that we could be focused on? What are some actions we could take? We love to be theoretic, and we also love to be super practical. And I think in today's HR huddle, where Samantha and I landed, is that we're going to be more to the practical in this conversation. And we were thinking about, like, who should HR or the talent department be in the face of peak season? It's peak season, certainly in CAS practices for the month of January. Our tax practices begin ramping up. Our commercial audit practices with year-end 12/31 year ends all start to sort of prepare to get busy. It's a little less busy for some of those practices in January, but man, February, March, April, May, even super, super high volume. And we touch almost every client we have. Traditionally, we've had kind of a negative story about it. We call it busy season, which, if you know anything about all the sage, wise resources in time management, they say, ooh, busy's a bad look. Busy's a trap. Don't fall in the busy trap. But we call a whole season busy season in public accounting. So we've renamed it at Convergence to peak season. And we thought that we would give you some ideas. And by the way, while we're giving you these ideas, we're hoping you'll give us some ideas too, and give the audience some ideas by participating with us in social. You can post onto the social media feeds that you're seeing this stream, and we should be able to see them on our platform. And so we'd love you to chime in too with your ideas. But what we're going to do is talk about messages, little tips or diginos for thriving during the peak season, coming from HR. So if you were putting content out inside your firm to try to make this a better peak period than ever before, what kinds of things could you message on? And so Samantha and I thought we'd try to hit on as many ideas, and we were kind of thinking in the context of the message of the week. If you were going to put out a message of the week or put out a meme on your intranet, or some kind of a reminder to elevate our thinking and elevate what we're doing during peak season, what could you talk about? So I'm going to start with one kind of quick hit, and that is wellness. So drink more water, stand up every hour for a few minutes, walk around, get a few more steps in, watch your steps. I know many firms have fitness challenges and that sort of thing in peak season. We applaud that. But just reminding people that wellness is never, we're never too busy to work on wellness. Feeding and watering ourselves and our spirit and our body, our mind, really important. And so anything to sort of elevate the thinking, like, hey, my body, my mind, my feelings are important to feed during this busy time. So that might be one message of the week. Samantha, what about you? You've got a few ideas, maybe?
Oh, definitely. Well, and I'll play off of what you just said of wellness. And one thing that we can do is remember acknowledging people, because especially when we get truly in the depth of that peak season, and it becomes very transactional in our interactions with people. And, our team members are possibly doing wonderful work, but then we come to just expect that and forget to acknowledge that we can't do this without them. And so for a message that you could build in there, and maybe you're doing that, like I said, when you're a little deeper into the season, is that acknowledgement, because it goes so far in expressing appreciation, which is huge for people when they're just starting to feel tired and burnt, and just having somebody say, hey, I see you and I really appreciate what you're doing. And so that's a little reminder you could give to your leadership team to keep people going.
I love that, Samantha. And there's this concept called catch someone doing something good. Like, look for look for any positive thing and catch them in the act and acknowledge them for it there. I love that. I really do. So another one is the idea of, hey, we are about to touch practically every client in the firm. We over the next month or 90 days or 120 days or whatever your peak period is, we tend to encounter almost every client we have in the spring peak season. So what we want to suggest is that, a message out to the team that reminds them we are either going to deepen and strengthen every client relationship as we touch them, or we are going to weaken it. We will somehow diminish it in some way. I'm either making a positive impression or I'm not. And to just recognize the importance of every single client interaction. Smiling, eyebrows up, shoulders down, not acting like, I'm wearing the red badge of courage of toil and tumult over here. Clients don't want to refer more clients to you, or referral sources don't want to refer business to you because they see how beat up you appear in busy season, or the stuff you say, or what you say when you respond an email. Sorry for the delay, I'm buried over here. Those kinds of words and phrases are discouraging to the clients. And of course, they're discouraging to us when we use them with each other and when we use them to ourselves. And I'm not saying that we aren't experiencing a peak period and it isn't a little more challenging. It is. But who are we going to be during it, and how are we going to let that manifest in the client relationship? Are we going to take a few extra minutes and ask some critical questions about what the client's plans are for 2025, what their goals, hopes, dreams, fears, concerns might be? Are we going to take a few minutes and just deepen our relationship, build some more rapport, get to know them a little bit more? Are we going to work to be more responsive to emails and phone calls than normal, perhaps more than we've been in other peak periods, or try to engage other people in our groups to help us triage some of that? Because sometimes we think I've got to follow it all up, when in fact there are others who could. So what kinds of strategies are our client service professionals embarking on during this period? And are we selling or unselling in the way we're behaving? And I focus that on clients, Samantha, but as I'm saying it, same goes for our internal interactions, our internal clients. Who are we being with peers? When somebody needs support, am I snapping at them because I'm busy too? Are we being responsive internally? Are we treating our administrative and operational resources with respect, regardless of how late we might have worked the night before? What are we doing? Are we taking a saw to relationships during peak season, or are we enriching them?
Absolutely. Well, and if we need to think selfishly sometimes, because we do. And so when you think about the benefit of the listening and the really taking the time to ask a few questions of the client, is realizing that it really helps hone their skills too. I was speaking at a conference recently, and this is one of the things we were talking about that's a great development opportunity, is to take the time to ask clients inquisitive questions and get to know their businesses and get to know them better. And that's a type of learning we can't put in a book. And that's a type of learning that they're not going to get in a CPE. And it's some of the most valuable learning that they can have. And so sometimes it may help to remind them that, yes, we want to do this unselfishly for our clients, being generous with our clients, being generous with our colleagues. And then on the selfish side, the way you can look at it too is say, if I really listen to this, if I really get good at those questions, then I'm going to get better and I'm going to do better. And so it could just be that little added motivator and kicker of, hey, I'm going to take the moment and ask those 2 to 3 questions that maybe isn't necessarily directly aligned with the work that I'm doing in this moment, but what can I learn from it and how could I do better? Another thing that you could do as HR leaders is maybe collaborate with your marketing team get some of the other teams involved and throw out tidbits of reminders on where do they track an additional opportunity that they find. Man, maybe we can't follow up on this right now, but if there's a cross-selling opportunity, we find there's something that in the spring we really should follow up on this. Where are we supposed to record that? Or who can help me get that recorded? Maybe that's a delegation piece. Somebody can go into the CRM and log that, and then that way we don't lose track of it. But ways that you can also HR have other teams within the firm supporting the rest of the team, not only during the peak season, but how successful we're going to be when we're coming out of it. So that was just another thought. So you might do a quick, here are the 3 to 5 steps to log an opportunity, or if you found something out about a client that, hey, this doesn't affect this tax return, but we need to remember this for next year, or maybe we should start doing planning. Where do we record that and give them those tips to be able to offer the higher level of service?
I love that. So many people, Samantha, say, I can't deepen client relationships and I can't develop any business during this peak period. I'm just too busy.
Mm-hmm.
And but yet I'm touching every one of them in different ways, and I have an audience with many of them, and I should just check in. And even if it's email, asking a question in email or saying, hey, let's schedule a follow-up in May, or whatever it is, taking that extra step when it feels a little hairy to do it, it'll be worth it. So I love that. If HR could put that out as a tidbit, just take one extra step with our clients. So another idea, another reminder to put out there, and this is going to sound like really but delegate or leverage, or maybe the message is highest and best use. Maybe delegate would be sort of, oh brother, another busy season reminder to delegate. But what we find is a lot of us, when we're at our peak period and we feel a little embattled, the volume and velocity is pretty high. Instead of figuring out how to work smarter and leverage appropriately and give other people opportunities to dig in with us and support us, we just start doing a lot of, I'll do it myself. And we have a lot of stories and reasons that we give for that. We have some wonderful nano content out on our LMS related to all the stuff we tell ourselves. They're not ready yet. I'm afraid to burden them. They won't do it as fast as I can. They won't do it as well as I can. I mean, there's just so many things we say instead of delegating. But if people are reminded, hey, not everything on your plate is really for you. It's not the right use of your skill or talent at your level. Please push the work to the right place, send it to the right place. And if everybody did that, we'd work so much smarter, so much more effectively. We'd function higher as a team. And so that's another whole area of reminders, not just the idea of please work at your highest and best use, but also here are the things we say in delegation that stop us, and here's why you've got to do it anyway. One big one is, and we hear this all the time, Samantha and I coach a lot of future leaders, and they tell us, I wish that I would get these kinds of opportunities from the partners that I work with, and it feels like they're kind of flirting them. And what we hear, what we feel from them when they're saying that is that they feel like they're not, there's not enough generosity and trust in giving those opportunities to others. People are interested in supporting you with your stuff, even though they're busy and even though you're busy. Your stuff looks interesting to them, and they would be privileged, most of them, to be asked or invited. And so it's a generous act to involve others.
Especially when you're giving them those chances to develop themselves, where they're getting an opportunity to do something that they haven't done before. And I could not agree more with what you just said there, Jen, because I think there's a couple of things that can happen on the leader side. Is one, they're worried about the load on the team below them. So they feel like, well, I should just keep shouldering it because I don't want to push too much and burn them out or overload them, and then they leave. But at the same time, like you said, there are perceptions of these younger individuals who are saying, gosh, I'd really like an opportunity to not be doing the same thing that I did, right? So if we've got some people that, hey, you promoted them to senior this year, or you promoted them to supervisors or managers, are we giving them harder work? Are we giving them new projects that they weren't doing in their previous role? Because that's where they can get frustrated is I got this title, but I'm really not doing any different work than I was before. So give those reminders to your leaders and say, let's identify the work now as we're planning, as we're doing our scheduling and making sure that we're creating those opportunities. And going in that same vein with development, is that please don't feel that you need to hold feedback, constructive feedback, to the end of peak season, or only doing it through a review note, or, well, I'll wait until the whole project is done and then I'll give feedback. And what people are expressing is, I really like more feedback in small chunks. It gives them that opportunity to build their confidence that, oh, okay, now I know I'm doing it right, or here's how to fix what I've been doing wrong. And it also gives them the ability to get faster at what they're doing, because maybe they're not struggling along because they got some real positive, in the way of helping them, positive feedback, where now that they can truly be more efficient and effective, and then maybe they can help the next person, or maybe they're more confident in going into that next client conversation because they have a firmer grasp on whatever the concept is. So please don't hold that feedback into the end. I can't tell you how many leaders we talk to that say, yeah, I'm guilty of that. I wait until the end of the project, or all I give is really review notes. Your people want so much more. And it's a very generous act that you can do.
Oh, I agree. But not only that, but really, some people think I don't have time for that, as time permits or whatever, and then they don't let it permit. We always say all the time, okay, don't give the feedback, then let them repeat the thing 6 or 8 or 20, 10 or 60 times in the course of this busy season before somebody gives them the feedback.
Yep.
And that's going to cost you the time that you were trying to save, not giving them the feedback. So as much as Samantha suggested a reminder from UHR, hey, catch people doing something good and give them positive feedback. Also, when you see somebody that needs some sort of constructive feedback, make sure it happens and give it to them in small bites and do it with love and with care. And, don't forget feedback. Maybe that's the meme, of all kinds. So another one that we want to make sure that you're paying attention to is the drive. Samantha was telling a story. She was with our transformational leadership program participants last week, spent a day on people development and a day on business development. And one of the comments that they made about what causes an organization to be attractive, a destination workplace, someplace they want to be, is when the organization is flexible with them. And that doesn't just mean flex of time and place. It does mean that, but it also means just flexible in general, like flexible with due dates, if the due dates are flexible with the client, or flexible around a specific issue, or flexible if they get sick or have a child emergency or something. Whatever it may be, that I feel like my leaders are flexible. So maybe talent, your HR function or firm leaders should put a message out to all the service groups, all the resource teams, and say, hey, don't forget to flex with your people. Be flexible. We're asking them to flex up during peak season. And yes, not all of them might flex up in the same way that you would like them to, but many do. They take on the increased velocity and volume. They do. So when we're asking them to flex up, let's be flexible with them and not feel inflexible, because nothing's sort of less attractive these days to next gen talent especially, but to all of us, then feeling like our colleagues, our coworkers, the people we work with and for, aren't willing to be flexible with us. And so just looking at our flexibility persona as the firm leaders and as team leaders, and then reminding the team, hey, if you need something to be more flexible, let us know. If you need support in some way for something impacting your schedule, please see your supervisor, and then please be flexible downstream with others. Let's be as flexible as we can be with one another. It reduces stress and tension and pressure and feelings of, again, that sort of snippiness and stuff that we don't need to have in our practice. And so I wondered if you wanted to say more about that, Samantha, because you were right face to face with this big discussion about it last week.
Yeah. I really appreciated all the areas that these emerging leaders were discussing. Flexibility makes a difference. They went as far as, dress for your day, right? I mean, that's an example. And I hope that's pretty commonplace today, but not all firms. So there's a reminder for some firms, but flex for your dress for your day, flex your work location for your day. If this is a day that I am truly going to be very heads down and work, do I need to be sitting in an office to be very heads down? Or if we have, last Friday, we had some really not good weather. Trying to adjust my verbiage there. But some just not fun weather. So are we really going to make people have to deal with the hassle and the stress of bad weather? Or, hey, if we have a bad forecast, let's just flex. We were going to be in office maybe to do that team meeting or that client meeting, but hey, let's just make this better and reduce that stress, and we're going to do this remotely to be better for everybody. And this is a longer term one, but they also talked about flexing career paths and acknowledging that you have some people that aren't ready to say, I want to go on that partner path, or they're not sure that they want to always stay in tax or assurance or where it is, and giving them those opportunities to have exposure to other areas of the practice. And that was something that we got talking about, is that flexing of not getting selfish or greedy about, but I trained these people up and I've invested in them for years. I don't want them to go to another service line now. I've got them where they're great and reliable. But here's the thing is, if they really have interest, then they're going to go look for it somewhere else. And so as leaders, let's remind that exposure to different types of clients or different types of projects, or how the cross-selling can really happen. Are we inviting them into a client meeting so they get to see what that's all about? All of those things can influence where that career path may go. And let's keep that career path in our firm if we at all can, by showing that flexibility and showing that we care about them as a person and as a professional. And that we're not going to dictate, here's where you came into the firm and that's where you're always going to stay. We want to help you develop. And so there are tidbits of that you can do during the season. And then another thing, like we talked about with deepening the client relationships, is it something we need to explore more later in the year?
I love that. I love that. And I wondered all of a sudden, as you were talking, besides that, maybe the practical, tidbits of content during the year, or, make note of things that you really are getting energy from, that you're loving, that you're working on. What is exciting you right now? What are you passionate about? Getting people to make note, maybe having a Teams channel that they could post about it, or something like that might help us start to see the things that cause our people to be more engaged in their work. And sometimes it might be things that, as we think about their career path post peak season, we could try to get them more of, or try to get them positioned for more of come fall, or whatever it is. So that's just an idea. Instead of saying, and of course, we should also be open to any feedback, or how can I help you? Or if you feel stopped or blocked in some way, let us know. We'll help you. But also, what is lighting you up right now? in the work, pay attention to it and share it. And let's see what we could do to get you more of that going forward. So just a way of positioning that. Well, this has been great. I hope it's been valuable for some of you on the talent side and the firm leadership side to think about an ongoing cascade of messages. Many of us think, oh man, I got to keep this to a minimum. I can't roll out new programs or any of that kind of stuff because everybody's buried. Emails are barely, being kept up with. We're not trying to get you to do inundating communication, just tidbits of content reminders that could help elevate people's behavior and their actions during the peak period. And that's what we're hoping you'll be thinking about. And if you have ideas, share them in social with us, share them privately with Samantha and I. And we'd love to hear about it. If you take any of this on or you create any content or memes, we'd die to see them. It'd make us so happy. And please join us for next week's. I think next week is Martin Luther King Day, and we are off for HR Huddle. So please join us for the 26th of, I think it's 26. I don't know. I'm making up dates now. But 2 weeks from today, join us. And we'll talk about more talent-related ideas and opportunities for us all. Thanks very much, everybody. And thank you, Samantha and Caroline.
Thank you. Have a fabulous week, everybody.